Hi everyone, this is Greg from Greg's Whiskey Guide. I hope you're all well. I had initially thought to do this video in the shortest way, outdoor, while it seems to be the thing at the moment, and the idea also for me to get out of this flat, which is getting to be a bit heavy for me. But started to rain, so before I take a decision to get out and pack some things, not all these because I can't, but a few bottles, it was too late. So don't worry, for those who liked my previous quick outdoor video, there will be others like that which can fit into a kind of rambling and rants outdoor series if you like. But for now, we're on to a very special one that I probably do put on a premiere, I think, because there will be a giveaway. Haha. What's the topic today? It's one of the videos I wanted to do about blending whiskey for a long time, and the occasion didn't came in. But basically it's what I could call do it yourself. If you like, do it yourself. If you're not happy with the current offer, do it yourself, blend yourself, create something. Not from scratch, because you don't have the casks, you don't have the new make. Most of us don't have new makes, or in small amounts. I have a few samples of new make here. I don't have any casks, I don't have room for that. And even if I had, at this level in the attic, I won't have a cask, because I'll be sure it's almost the same condition as the top of the racked warehouse, modern warehouse. So very spicy, lots of alcohol, lots of tannic elements. So I'm not interested. I am definitely, yes, for dunnage warehouse aging, not mandatorily, but if possible, I prefer that. While I also have to say, it's paradoxal, I know, there's some of the best whiskies I ever tried, which are on my top 75 list of whiskies on my website, that were raised on racked warehouse, and also before the time where I think it's around 2000, something like that, where, for instance, Diageo decided to stop to fill into casks at a high level of alcohol. And in order also to harmonize with other big companies and to trade casks and to trade and also to sell to brokers and to blenders, they started around year 2000, I don't remember exactly when, to fill the cask into a standard, kind of standard. There's no regulation for this, I think, I'm not sure, for the 63.5 ABV. So by filling, I mean when the distillate is gone out of the stills and kept into tank receiver, they will fill then the casks at a certain ABV and then let it mature into the warehouses. Bear in mind that for cognac and mostly for Armagnac, there's many producers that down the ABV level under 60% ABV, and sometimes only 55 or 53, things like that. So the filling is very low level, but they use several kind of warehouses, and also they stop the aging at some points, etc. But back to Scotch, which is the main topic here. So yeah, before that year, around 2000, there were Diageo, at least, were filling, well, pre-Diageo, DCL, were filling their whiskies, for instance, for the rare malt selection range. I forgot to put one. I got only one. They were filling over 70%, around 70% ABV, their casks. So it's the way you can have 40, 30 years old that's more than 60% ABV, which is weird. And it was the same, mind you, in some Japanese distilleries, such as Karizawa, which allowed them to have 63 plus or 64% ABV whiskies that are over 30 years old, 40 years old, which is in dunnage warehouses. You can have this level of ABV. It's very down. Many 40 years old are just over 40% legal, 40% ABV. But yeah, then to go back to the topic, I poured myself something. I will tell you what it is later on here with this lovely coin from New Drum Drinker. I love it. It comes with this felt bag. This is really lovely, and also the shape that fits well. I said it already, but they're not to sell. It's what I like at New Drum Drinkers. Nothing is to sell except t-shirts, stuff like that, but they don't sell the coins. You can be certified original as kind of member. You can access to several things, but you don't have to pay anything, so it's very fair to them, and not many people do that, so big shout out. Blend it yourself. Back to the topic. Yes. This is for the timing, sorry, after the video. Blend it yourself. What I mean by that, when you have, and it started like that for me, believe me or not, in year around 2004, 2005. I was exploring different blended whiskies, many low budget, so it wasn't a big deal for me to buy them. 15, 20 euros from time to time. I said, oh, let's try this, let's try that, which is advised by this or that book at the time. I was not going much on internet. And you learn things. You learn also things you don't like. Not only things you like, but things you don't like. And that are bland, that are full of E150A, etc. And so there were some of these that I liked, and others that were left over in the shelves. And I said, what I'm going to do with that is not a blend at the point that it's not drinkable, but it's not super interesting, even over ice. But this is decent, and this is, let's say, balanced. This is the key word, guys, for all the video, balance. So as it is balanced, I said to myself, why not add something to maybe increase the character. So at this time, I don't remember how many whiskies I had. I'm up to several hundreds now, but maybe I have 50 or so. And then I said, let's try to add this. Leave at 12, and maybe that, I don't know what I had at that time, but maybe some Springbank 10, stuff like that, and maybe a bit of something peated. So I had 2 or 3 things to add, and it was starting to be interesting, but there is too much note of this and not enough of that. And then I added others, and that's how things started for me. Home blending. Of course, it is not work of a master blender. Master blender is working after casks and after cask samples. He downs them to around 30% ABV in order to be able to nose them in a row, sometimes 100 ones per day, and then those which he or she, there's many women master blend now, and I know some, when they're not sure of a sample and they want to finalize the blend, then they will go to taste it. And of course, also the final step when all are gathered together. And I've been attending master classes of blending, challenges of blending, even professional ones that are very impressive that I did in the past. I missed them, honestly. Miss also Whiskey Magazine's challenged. I had the chance to enter to one of the biggest in 2005, and I finished 12 out of 650 participants, which I was very proud of, but unfortunately only the 10 first were highlighted everywhere in the press, but I have the evidence of it. For those who want, it's in my reference page on my website. And believe me, it was a very hard exercise to speak about 6 samples and also talk about food pairings, identify the style of whiskey, the region, the area, etc., age. And then I did others, but let's put this short. Do it yourself. What many of us have, whether you're a connoisseur of just a beginner, a novice, you have probably all around 20-30 whiskies at your place, at your bar, in your shelves. And it's enough to start your journey into blending, honestly. Of course, if you have 100, except if you are one brand collector, let's say, and even it could be interesting. One brand collectors is, for instance, Luke Timmermans, which is the biggest Glenfarclas collector, which all the shelves you see before me and the others should be filled at his place, I guess, of what I heard of Glenfarclas all the way. At the point where he can go at the distillery and have bespoke Glenfarclas for his collection with his label on it. Good stuff. But yeah, for most of us mortals, if I may say, we have different brands. And that's where the game starts. And I used to be, I'm formerly a painter, even if I didn't succeed to make a living out of it. Otherwise, I might not be here before you speaking about whiskey. Might not be into troubles I'm in now, but it's another story. I hope I will be out of it soon. Basically, what you have in Scotch whiskey, you have single malts from 5 areas, the official ones. So you have Lowlands. This is an example of a distillery from the Lowlands, Ochentoshen. There are others, of course. The character can vary from distillery to distillery and even from cask to cask. You know that probably. Then the other official region that even was about not to be a region unless until the G&A Mitchell family that owns Springbank decided to take care of the Glengyle distillery to make it the 3rd Campbelldown distillery along with Glen Scotia. So what I mean is you need to have 3 different distilleries in your area to be allowed to be called a Scottish whiskey producing region of malt. Then you have the Speyside, which is the biggest one. I didn't brought a map, I have one behind me, but you know that, guys, if you follow me, and even if you're novice, you have maps. So for the general concepts, you don't need me to help you. You know that this is Glenmoray, for instance, part of around 50 different distilleries located there. No, located up there. You'll see that on my website or in other videos. So not all these 50 or so distilleries are alike style-wise, but they can enter in the same family group of general, let's say, profile that can be similar. It's a generality, mind you. Then you have Northern Highlands, and I picked up this just to change. This is not an official bottling, but an independent bottling of Clynelish. Northern Highlands, but part of the Highlands. And then you have Islay, which is the only island of, for now, it might change, in Scottish territory, to have the right to call itself a Scottish whiskey area, official area, because it has 9 to almost 10 distilleries. I include Port Ellen, of course, my favorite distillery, and most famous in the world example probably is Lagavulin 16, in the south coast. So basically Scotch whiskey is whiskies from 5 areas. Then you have 3 big styles. You have also blended grain, but you have basically single grain, which is around half of the total production of Scotland for whiskey per year, which is a few years ago was around 40 millions of liters. 400, sorry, for the other 400 half for all the Scottish malt distilleries, something like that. So they're huge. There's only 8 to 10 grain distilleries. This is Cameron Bridge product called single grain called Cameron Brig. It's not available in France, but I got it from the UK a while ago. It's you have also, of course, what's the best seller in the whiskey industry, in the Scotch whiskey industry, and also in France, believe it or not, 90% to 95% is what is sold in the world is blended whiskey made of single malts and of grains. Then you have another category that jumps up more and more in the market, which is blended malt, which is just blending some of these. So you have, for instance, Oak Cross from Compass Box, which is a blended malt, and you have, for instance, Rock Oyster from Douglas Lang, which has now become Rock Island. So 2 beautiful examples of blended malts. Why I explain that? Because at the end of the day, you can use everything of this on the table and behind me and what you have to create your own whiskey. How are you going to do? There are rules of they're not secret, but there's the Master Blender rules. I talked a lot with them. I have some books from them, but I don't know all the secrets. I'm not a professional. I'm just an amateur blender for 15 years. What you're looking for now to create your own blend, you have to think of what is the goal of this. Is it something you want to do to please a lot of your friends that are coming to your home? So you want it to have it all the time, maybe several years or so. Be careful what ingredients, what malts or grains you're going to put in there. If you have a rare single malt, a rare single grain, when you have only very few, your bottle is very down, you're not sure to get another one in reserve, and you're gonna have 100 guests during the year coming in. Unless you're gonna put 1 or 2% of it in your blend, don't use it, because next one you're gonna do, if you have a lot of people home, you'll have to have 5 or 6 bottles of your creation, which should be identical. So you have to produce in kind of mini massive way what you're doing. Then you have to use cheaper stuff, obviously, unless you're very rich, because you have to multiply the quantities of your experiment by the number you need to do volumes. I forgot to put out all my tools for blending. This probably will be part of another another more technical video. But so what did I do? For instance, I usually I note down the recipe of what I do, and I start by an idea. Also, what I forgot to say is you have to have an idea of what you're going to create. Do you intend to do something that will please everyone? So do not use harsh whiskies, very demanding, difficult whiskies in there, or just in small amounts. Or do you want to do something more demanding for your best connoisseur friends? Do you want a floral profile? Do you want a rather fruity profile, sherried, peated, etc.? All these you have to take into account before choosing your whiskies, and even after, when you'll have to correct your blend. And I recommend a week later. You blend your thing, you let it sit in your shelf for a week, and then you see, what's going on. And then you probably have to correct it and note down the amount of whiskies you put in there. And see also if you have to add some water. I recommend mineral water that could be not tasteless, but with a balanced, neutral side taste. Then what you're gonna do, if you want something unique and not to be repeated, or not to be let's say multiplied on a unique recipe basis, which I usually do. I usually do home blends. I did some for weddings, for friends, for different occasions, and they were very targeted to them, to what they usually like. And they were often 50 cl because they were containing some very old stuff in it. To mark the occasion. Nowadays I use less high-end content because it's very expensive, and I cannot replace my older and most famous single malts. There was a time I was using Port Ellen in every single blend I was making home, and now I'm up to number 69 or number 17th creation. So you can, even if it was a small amount. But now the thing is, I am into created something different, and I have several projects I cannot tell you of all now, but and for now it appears for the first time almost in my life, even if I started like that, I did an infinity bottle, which looks like this. Of course, this is not a label I made. This is to show it was containing something else before, which probably still have around 10 cl in it, colored, chill filtered, etc. But all the rest is almost not colored and not chill filtered, for the most of it, let's say. I just added my own kind of stamp on it. And yes, it is still a blended malt Scotch whiskey, so I left it. I just added on this side another kind of sticker of mine, and this, which I like to put every time, which is Infinity Bottle number 1, and I called it Batch 1 because I stopped it at a certain date because I was very happy with it. So I said, oh, unless it goes down to this, I won't change the recipe. There's over around 60 different whiskies in there. 16, sorry. The maximum I did in my life was 36. And usually I work with 25 to 30, let's say. 25 to 30 different whiskies. Just to give me a complex palette. Also to run different ages. One of the secrets of doing great blends, and all, you can see that in some official creations as well, things that do not work because most of the whiskey is young and they just added one whiskey which was very old thinking it will impress, but there was nothing between. So you had most of the harshness of the young whiskey, and on the background, oh yeah, something might be good coming on, but it's too far. So it doesn't work. So you need, if you want something complex and very demanding and something really you will be proud of, you need to have a lot of different ages or vintages. Not necessarily very old stuff, but you need to have different ages, let's say 5, 6, 10 years old, and then some 15, some 18, some 20 years old stuff or more. And you will pick these very carefully. For instance, if you have on the table 10 sherry monsters and only one thing that is a bourbon refill bourbon cask, it will erase the bourbon immediately. So, and then if you use more than 5%, and it's a professional tip I was given, if you use more than 5% of a, let's say, mid-peated 30 ppm ABV Lafroig or Colilla Lafroig or more, not more, let's say Colilla Lafroig, Bowmore it's a bit less, kind of single malt. If you use more than 5% of it in your blend, you will have a huge smoky and peat impact on it. It will dominate your blend, whether it's a blended malt or blended grain. Of course, if you put 95% of this, it will have an impact, but it will be minimal. Then the proportion between the grain and the malt, if you want to do yourself, try to recreate this. You have to know most of these blended whiskies are made with 75% of corn and 25% of malted barley. So only 25% of single malts. For some that are more high-end stuff, the amount of single malt increases to sometimes 50%, or in exceptional cases such as the Yushkabo 1 to 90%. And for some of mine, like this one, I climb to 95% malt, and I'm often over 70% malt, because I wanted to have a lot of character, a lot of complexity, and the mellowing of it is more by choosing sweet single malts than using grain, because also I don't have a lot of single grains. I have only 4, and only 2 are from Scotland, mind you. It's one of the downside of my collection, I have to say. I didn't, oh no, 3 Scottish ones, yeah, of course. But there's one that's so rare that I don't take it into account. I don't put it anywhere now. It won't be replaced. It's a very old one. Okay, so another long video, apologies. I'm gonna try for you my own infinity bottle. There will be super biased tasting notes, of course, no rating. And you can think I'm lying everything. It's not a problem, but this will give you an idea of the kind of profile you can have. And this was not random. I noted some things here, but I didn't note the proportion every time. So and still I might have forgotten 3 or 4 components. So it might be 20 instead of 15, 16, and I forgot all the smoky components, believe me or not. So I made this during 6 months, let's say, modified it around maybe 5 or 6 times each month almost, and stopped modifying it a few months ago. So it's not exactly the date that's there, I'm afraid, but 2 months ago. So here's the color of it. as, oh no, here's the color of it. What did I do? And onto the nose. So I'll try not to be too subjective on this, but it's impossible. So balanced nose with a hint of smoke coming in out of it, but it's integrated. Very floral and fruity, as I like. So there's lemon, there's oranges, there's peaches. Maybe some apricots, some ripe fruits, varied candied fruits as well. And slight smoke on the background, very subtle, and it is more smoky on the palate than on the nose, which is weird, but onto the palate now. I talked a lot, so getting dry. Yeah, the smoke is a bit like a bed with some spices. It's warm, and right behind it there's waves of fruits, flowers, dry spices, and some, I would say, comfortable toffee. It's difficult, it's so melted that I can't even pick up everything. Yeah, yes, some black and green tea, but very subtle. Some licorice, some raisins, some figs, some dark chocolate, and it's a very long, warm finish. ABV, forgot to say, I calculated approximatively it's about 45, 46, maybe a bit more at the last edition, because there was many cask strengths in there. Maybe 48, something like that, but not, I don't think more. Well, this is almost like my creations, I have to say. So even if some things have been spontaneously added, it was thought before. It was not just random. Like I heard some horrible stories, some festivals or some I won't mention names, or some families that got to have some finishing bottles of stocks of people who died, etc. And when the people died, they had 20 bottles, let's say, on the shelves, end bottles, 10 cl. And what did they do? They did blend all together without any reflection behind it. And basically, I believe they ruined it. They ruined the whole thing. And they gave away or sold it, I don't know. Some festivals, again, people had varied, interesting stuff. As I heard, I've never been to them, but I had friends who went to them several times, and it was said that all was left on the table at ending level, let's say less than 10 cl. They were all blending it together randomly, and someone was picking it, and I never heard of good feedback, honestly. And I don't want to do that. Okay, with water. This is what I like and what I always test, sorry, when I do blend is, does it handle the dilution step, and I try to always make it right for that. So what do I get? I get some coffee notes now, interesting coffee beans, coffee, toasted malt. I get some ginger, hints of black pepper. Yes, there might be some Glen Scotia, I don't remember now in it. Yeah, it's long, warm. It's like Christmas cake, and I would say if it was a SMWS, I will say smoked Christmas cake in a blanket of spices, soft spices, something like that. I get it. Well, that's it, folks. So main message here. And yes, there will be a giveaway of a sample of this for those who like. With some questions I might put in the premiere. So you have to wait for that step to get your to win your sample, and only if you're, sorry, not in the USA. I cannot send in the USA, so only UK, continental Europe, places like that. And I will probably add other samples to that because it's too expensive to send just one sample somewhere. So yeah, basically my message is, if you have end of bottles or bottles you don't know, you not necessarily like, but which are balanced with no flows. Remember, guys, if you put even in 30 whiskies, and I did that in the beginning, we all have to learn, and I still have to learn a lot. I talked a lot with master blenders. Many are encouraging me. John Glazer was the first one who really encouraged me a lot, and put a recommendation word on my website long time ago. And I, from time to time, give samples to those big names to help me get better in that exercise. But without this, you don't need even this. If you have whiskies that you're not super happy with, but they are balanced, you can use them for that. Start with a few ones. Start to do just this, and put into a sample your result, note the proportions, and see how it evolves 1 week after. And if you're happy with it, you can let it there and try to create another one later on. Or if you're unhappy but you think it can be better, you can continue your work. You can change the recipe, add some other malts or grains, and then you wait again, and so on. And then you can create several kinds of samples. And when you're very happy with one, if it happens you still have some of the whiskies, of course, you can multiply this by the amount you need to do a full bottle. Then label it better than this. This is improvised. And then pour it to your friends. They will be very happy to try something unique that was made for them. It's a nice gesture. And yeah, basically that's it. Do it yourself. Thanks for watching.